Welcome back to another discussion of what's happening here. Coming to you live from northern Israel. And ooh, just walked by anyway. So in northern Israel right now, March 26th. Wow. No, 25th. Yeah, 25th, 2025. Not that the date matters necessarily, but it does for future reference. This is usually why I've mentioned the date in videos. In case you didn't know, and you probably did, if you watch my videos, I hope you know. If you've been watching it recently, not that many people do, but if you're one of the 5 people that watches my videos, you may have noticed Israel is at war again. Right, the ceasefire ended a couple weeks ago, now almost 3 weeks ago, and Israel's been back fighting with Hamas in Gaza since about a week or so. And on top of that, we're fighting with Hezbollah again, on and off, sparring with, retaliatory strikes because they shot some rockets, or somebody from southern Lebanon shot rockets at Israel. Hezbollah is jumping up and down saying, no, we didn't do it, because they don't want Israel to strike at them. Anyway, Israel's been striking at them too. But yeah, Hamas has been firing rockets into Israel from Gaza. Yesterday, a bunch of them were fired in the general direction of the center of Israel. Or, they got us. The alerts were the alerts were blared as far away as the Israeli villages near Bethlehem, or as we say in Hebrew, Bethlehem. Fun fact: Bethlehem, and the historically Christian city, and all that kind of stuff. A very important city in Christendom, obviously. It was kind of, if you will, a sort of capital of Christian tourism in the Holy Land for many centuries because of Jesus and all that, birthplace of Jesus, etc. So 2 things. One is the actual city of Bethlehem is often debated by archaeologists which one was it? Because if it was Jesus of Nazareth, well, there's another Bethlehem, or Bethlehem, right? Because that's what we call it in Hebrew. There's the Bethlehem, which means house of bread or bread house. There's one near Nazareth, not very far, which archaeologists have suggested may be the actual place that's mentioned when they discuss this boy named Jesus being from Bethlehem. The other one is the Bethlehem that everybody knows, a town near Jerusalem, not very far. And so anyway, that town, the one that everybody knows, which used to be a majority Christian population for many centuries, for obvious reasons. A lot of Christian Arabs lived there. They weren't really, they were Christian Levantines, okay? Now, some of them had been Arabized because of conquest, etc., and then returned to Christianity. And they call themselves Christian Arabs. If you ask the average person, are you a Christian Arab? They'll say yes. But they're really not, if you look at their DNA, right? Because Arabs come from Arabia. If you've ever seen Arabians, you'll see they're very different looking than Levantines, right? People from Arabia, a lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them are a little bit shorter. So, obviously you have variations of that, but their average height is a tiny bit shorter than Levantines, and their complexion tends to be a lot darker than Levantines. Not all of them, yeah, obviously. I'm just talking about the averages here. I mean, just genetically, they have differences in the DNA, which can be traced. That's how we trace family lineage and stuff, family trees, things like that. But, so anyway, many Arabs who came with Muhammad's armies to the Levant here, yeah, what people call the Levant, what some people call the Levant, right? They did, in fact, conquer and, have their way with many women and make many half Arab, half Levantine children. And so sprang forth many generations of mixed people. And if they would marry, if a half Arab, half Levantine would marry another half Arab, half Levantine, then their child would also be that. But if a half Arab, half Levantine would marry just a regular Levantine, then their child would be mostly Levantine. Or if a half Arab, half Levantine would marry straight up Arab, then that child would be mostly Arab. And so you have a lot of mixing, right, of DNA and genetics, and over centuries and many generations, you get obviously a lot of mixture. Actually, diversity is good for genetic health. So it's good that people mix, but it's not good that people necessarily are forced to mix. That's obviously not good. Forced mixing, not okay. That's a crime. Back in the day when Muhammad's armies were running around conquering lands in the name of Muhammad and Allah, they weren't exactly following UN protocols, right? They weren't exactly following international Geneva conventions, right? And they still don't. What do you know? What a shocker, right? The terrorists who basically are the modern version of Muhammad's armies, they still don't run around following the Geneva Conventions. They only follow the book of Muhammad, the Quran. That's it. I mean, yes, they technically, in theory, follow the Old Bible and the New Testament, but they primarily refer to the Quran for instruction. And then they take it, in my opinion, in a very twisted way that's not healthy. Anyway, not to go off on a tangent. And yes, I know there are plenty of Arab armies that do follow the Geneva Conventions. Okay, the army of Morocco, the army of Egypt, the army, Iraq. In theory, they follow the Geneva Conventions. In theory, yes, of course, there are also violations once in a while. I'm talking about the ones who get the most attention. They're not regular armies, right? They're terrorist groups, and they don't follow the Geneva Conventions by definition. And yeah, again, like I said, you get 23 Arab nations or Arabized nations that do, for the most part, follow the Geneva Conventions. In theory, in reality, a very different story, probably. But yeah, all the Gulf states, Saudi Arabia, in theory, they all follow the Geneva Conventions. And they are party to, signatories to UN conventions and all this human rights stuff. Of course, they don't all observe the human rights stuff, do they? And yet, so very often, they will sit on the Human Rights Council, which is even more ridiculous. Anyway, the reason I was telling you that is because Bethlehem, the sort of the popular city of Bethlehem that everyone knows, the one that's not far from Jerusalem, is mostly Muslim these days. In case you didn't know that, it's not a Christian city anymore, and hasn't been for a long time. Right? Its population demographic switched from an average of being a city of mostly Christians to a city of mostly Muslims. Not that there's anything particularly bad or whatever about it. It's just a different shift in the demographics. So Bethlehem originally a Jewish town, became a Christian town for many, many centuries, and then in the past century has been, over the last several decades, has become pretty much a Muslim city because of higher birth rates among the Muslims, and also because a lot of violent things are happening against the Christians there by the terrorists, the Muslims who are terrorists, not all of them, just the ones who are, and the support they get to do that kind of thing by the Muslims who are theoretically not terrorists, but they are complicit. They're their accomplices, right? They're guilty not just by association, but by not doing anything. They're guilty through inaction. In the same way that Germans who weren't Nazis but didn't do anything to stop them were guilty by inaction. Which is why, in order to end World War II, the Allies made the decision that they didn't have a choice other than to drop a whole heck of a lot of ordnance on places like Dresden and Berlin and other cities across Germany, which resulted literally in the death of millions of Germans. Right? And when that happened, nobody shouted, the G word or the H word, right, against the Allies. No, it was understood. They didn't have a choice. If they wanted to end the war, it would have to be like this. Why? Because the Germans were fully committed to doing the horrible things that the Nazis were doing, and that they would not stop, no matter what, unless they were physically forced to stop. And the Allies figured out a way to stop them, which was basically to carpet bomb Germany and to end them, right? To end the Nazis, to physically dismantle their existence through carpet bombing and through a mass-scale invasion of Allied forces in German cities where they needed to be present, to literally wipe out and mop up all of the Axis forces that remained. And that's exactly how it was done, and that's exactly how World War II ended. Right? It wasn't some gentle, negotiated, peaceful settlement where both sides sat down and agreed, oh, you know what? Maybe we should bring this long drawn-out conflict to an agreeable end, and we should prevent any more loss of life and, try to minimize damage and casualties. No. The Allies destroyed the Nazis. Like, decimated them, right? Literally completely annihilated their physical kinetic power across Europe. Once that happened, World War II in Europe ended, and America could focus on ending World War II in the Asia Pacific Rim, specifically regarding Japan. Anyway, so that's the quick update for you from Israel, where at the moment we are still engaged in this long and awful and horrible war. And we have a choice other than to end the Hamas. There's Saraki. How wow. I see you waving, Saraki. And waves to you too. So Israel is currently fighting against Hamas, fighting against the Hezbollah up in Lebanon, fighting against or keeping the enemies of Israel at bay in Syria, fighting against the Houthis in Yemen. When I say fighting, I mean really just shooting down whatever they try to fly into Israel, or doing our best to shoot down whatever they fly into Israel. Although many times what they fire towards us doesn't actually make it here, because either the US fires their anti-rocket systems, or the UK or France does. And why are they involved? Well, because they have they have an interest in protecting the shipping that goes through the Red Sea. And right now, the Houthis are blocking shipments going through the Red Sea, especially if they, quote unquote, suspect that it's going through the Red Sea in order to go to Israel. Right? If it's captained by Israelis or if it's an Israeli-owned ship, they want to destroy it because they're idiots like that. So that's what's happening right now in the area, the region of the world that I'm in right now. And here in the north, like I said, we've had a few rockets fired from Lebanon a couple days ago. Hopefully we won't have any more, but that's doubtful given the history of the region. And we can only hope that our systems and our armies here in Israel, our army will keep us safe and sound. And, well, we can't just only hope. Those who are serving are keeping us safe and sound. Thank goodness. And it's a crazy situation. What can I tell you? It's a messed up time to be in the Middle East. But that's how it is. Life during wartime. They say it changes a person. I would concur. War does, in fact, change a person. Not always for the better. Yes, you learn some valuable lessons, obviously, if you've never experienced it before. In most cases, you learn some valuable lessons, but not always. Plenty of people who don't learn valuable lessons, that's for sure. So anyway, that's going to do it for now. I don't want to take up all your time. Have a great day, and here's to peace. Shalom. See you next one.